Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Daydream Nation, and I've got a special guest, first time to this channel, Tom Curless from Curlessmania. How are you going, mate?
I'm doing very well, Peter. Thank you so much for having me.
Good to have you on. I was on your channel and we did a little bit of a Rolling Stone battle, which was a lot of fun. So I thought, return serve, you come over to my neck of the woods, and we're going to do a Ding Dong album battle. The Church with the album Heyday versus The Church and Starfish. So this is going to be a really, really tight contest. Clearly, a lot of folk think this is probably their two best albums in the catalogue. Look, The Church, you can't go wrong with their 80s catalogue. It's all very high quality. Tom, briefly, what was your first encounter with The Church in the day?
I have to admit, I think it was under the Milky Way because I was not aware of them. I mean, I'm not aware of them, and they came on my college radio station and back in the day played under the Milky Way quite a bit. It was on the playlist obviously, and they played it quite a bit. And I just remember being entranced by it. I thought it was a great. I remember thinking, "Who is that?" You hear a song and you say, "Who is this?" I gotta check.
Yeah,
Who is? I gotta find out who this is, and I gotta find out. Is this back pre-internet? You just hear a song and you say, "Okay, I gotta find out who that is and what song is that and who's the band." And sure enough, it was the Church, and I bought Starfish pretty quickly, actually. Yeah.
that did some good business in the States. I think it went to gold certification. We'll get deep into your views of that song and that album. So I guess without further ado, why don't we start off with Heyday, talk about that album. This was produced by Peter Walsh, known to many folk by producing Simple Minds, New Gold Dream.
Great record, by the way.
Yeah, uh, a great record, a
Yeah.
great record indeed. You've got The Church. I love the album cover, I must say. But the funny thing is, I was reading an interview with Marty Wilson Piper. It was sort of like a little bit of they were actually leaving Paisley behind, but people were looking at this sort of thinking, oh, this band is right into the Paisley scene. But it was kind of tongue in cheek. It was their way of sort of saying goodbye to that whole sort of scene. I just think it's just a perfect album cover. They hung up this Persian rug, and the photography is just perfect. It just matches it. So I think it really makes a statement. So
Yeah, yeah, I really love it. I really love it. He did say something I think I may have read the same thing where he said Marty Wilson Piper said something about really the Paisley scene was kind of over almost, and it was sort of he said the Church were always perverse, and we of course we did the Paisley cover. So,
absolutely.
but it works. It works. It's a great cover. I enjoy. I agree.
Oh,
Yeah.
and in the States, it was released on Warner's. So they are on a major record label. So why don't we do a track by track analysis? So
Sure.
starting off with the first song, what do you think of Myrrh?
Oh, love it. Love Myrrh. It's funny how I in my notes, my first note is about Heyday is first side pretty flawless. So I'm giving my game away already, but that was my first impression is that it's an excellent way to start the record. I think it has an atmosphere. It kind of hits that church button of like melodic and mysterious. And it kind of has those ringing guitars that you want from them. And I don't know, I just love it. I love the song. I think it's a great opening track to the record.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything you've said. It's just jangle guitar pop excellence, the beautiful chiming guitars. Um, it's got a wall of sound. It's textured. It's inviting. I love how the bass is right up in the mix. Kilby sings really well on this album, and a lot of folks say that he's quite similar to David Bowie. And the more I listen to this album, you can sort of see that he's kind of in that wheelhouse.
Mhm.
He gets a lot of criticism for his singing, but I think on this album he really nails it, and even more so on the next album, which we'll talk about. But I think it's a
Oh,
great start.
couldn't agree more. I think he's really coming into his own on this record for sure.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
track 2 is Tristis. What do you think of this song?
I have another big winner. Another, once again, melodic guitars, that ringing guitar sound. I love the riff. I mean, it's like there's a lot of subtle riffing going on. It's funny. It's not heavy metal, folks, but there's a lot of great guitar riffing going on in this record. And I think Marty Wilson Piper and Peter Koppes, those two together, they do this intertwining thing that the Stones. Funny, 'cause we talked about the Stones earlier. These two guys do it sort of in like the Paisley Underground guitar weaving, and it works so well on this track. And I think it's again another to your point. I also have something about Steve's vocals on this as well. I love the way he sings this song as well. I just think it's a great track.
Yeah. Lyrically, it's an interesting album. A gunfight in Dodge City, a murder in Bombay. You know,
Mhm.
Steve Kilbey, he could be a pulp fiction writer. He loves a lot of his lyrics are like travel journeys of the mind, transcendental, sort of astro traveling. But I think on this song he could be it's like writing a story. He's being a little bit of a storyteller. And funny enough, this was the last album that he put there were lyrics with any of the Church albums. From there onwards, there were no lyrics. So I
Mhm.
think he
Yeah.
was of the sense that, you make what you want of the album and interpret the lyrics without maybe putting it in print in black and white and getting me to explain it. But,
Mhm.
that's another element to the Church that I really enjoy. Their obliqueness and their mysteriousness. It's what you make of the song, your interpretation, and that just makes it just them so wonderful. Um,
Mhm.
Tristesse is a French word that means sadness, but to me, it's kind of got a very majestic feel. I like the keyboards that underpin the melody, wonderful harmonizing. I don't feel like this is a sad song, so maybe it's kind of ironic. It's the opposite to that. It's
Mhm.
it's got a very majestic, sunny feel to it. So I think it's a really strong number 2 track.
Mhm.
All right,
Yeah.
the third one, Already Yesterday. What do you think of this one?
Um, Another three in a row, another winner. Already yesterday it has a great chorus. I mean, it's funny how it's one of those. The Church are not the kind of band that have these choruses that hit you in the head. They kind of sneak up on you a little bit. And albums like this, in particular this record, um, uh, Heyday, it really rewards repeated listens. And when you listen to this record quite a bit, you realize, oh, that's quite a good like that's a great hook and a great chorus. And it just I think this might have been, was this a single? I think this might have been a single. I'm not sure, not positive about that.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think it was. I'm not sure, but
No?
anyway, I'm sure
Okay.
our
I'm not
viewers will
positive
correct
about
us.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. Correct us if we're wrong.
yeah,
Uh, but this but I just think it's a great melody and a great hook and a great a chorus that sneaks up on you. I think it's very good.
yeah. Reading an interview with Marty, he said that the working title of this song was called Hover because he felt the riff evoked the sensation of hovering. And I thought that was quite interesting. I love
Mhm.
how you've got these two guitar parts, they intertwine and then they join together. So Marty starts the song, Peter's chord progression comes in the chorus, and it just nicely sort of weaves in. And then you've got that really choral ending. You've got a bit of a backup singers. It adds a lot of oomph to the song. I think this is perfect pop. It's sunny, it's optimistic, and it's kind of divine. So again, this is such a strong album. Third track,
Mhm.
and there's no weaknesses so far.
No, no.
Columbus,
Um, the streak continues, four in a row for
yeah,
me.
yeah,
I love this kind of. It's funny you mentioned Simple Minds earlier. This one has a little bit of a Simple Minds feel to it, in my opinion. You can kind of hear Simple Minds singing this song. Oh Columbus, I could just
mm,
hear it. But it has to your point, there is some piano and keyboards being mixed in as well, a little bit on some of these tracks. And to your point, Tristesse has a great piano and keyboard feel. I have that in the notes as well. When you mentioned that, I was happy to hear that because I had the same note. In Columbus, I saw this. The church came to Michigan and played the Magic Bag in Ferndale, and we went to the show and they played the All of Starfish, and then they played a couple more songs. And Columbus was part of the set list. And I
Wow.
was like, oh, and they did it so well live. It sounded so great. And it just renewed my love for this track. So I really think it's a great another winner.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just
Yeah.
so atmospheric and moody, and it just builds up. And Marty and that wonderful Rickenbacker, and you've got
Yes.
the Fender bass, underpinning the melody. It's just wonderful. I love the beautiful arpeggios of Marty, and then you've got Peter with the harder edge guitar lines and the piano. I think it's Rick Chadwick just reinforces the melody. It's a wonderful song, and this is one of the best songs on the album.
Yeah.
It's right up there. Not quite my favorite, but it's right up there. And I'm so glad that they got to play that song. I'd love them to do. Look, it's a completely different lineup, folks, because Peter and Marty have left the band, and Richard Blue, of course. So different lineup, and but they're still doing the Traps. So it's Steve Kilbey, and I would love him just to do Heyday from start to finish. So the last time I saw the band was a long time ago. It was about 10, 15 years ago, and Peter was still in the band. And Marty was still in the band, and they did Starfish from start to finish. They did Priest equals Aura, and
Oh,
then they did another album, which it's late at night. The name escapes me, but they did 3 albums from start to finish. But
right,
I
right.
just, I really groove on the concept of a band doing an album and touring behind it, and I'd love them if the church. I would have loved to, play all of the songs off this album from start to finish. That would be a total gas.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I would pay good money to see that. I wouldn't miss it if they came through with Heyday start to finish. Wouldn't miss it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
So
Okay, so side one finishes with Happy Hunting Ground. What do you think of that song?
um really love it.
It's an instrumental, folks, by the way. Sorry.
It's an instrumental and it's funny.
Yeah.
I love it. And I know I sound like a broken record here, but I just think the first side is amazing. I think that
Mm,
Happy Hunting Ground is just, oh boy, does it evoke an atmosphere. And it sounds like it's like two different songs kind of melded into one. Um, but it has that, that doo 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 doo. I mean, it's just got that. Oh, the guitars sound so good. And the part of you like is dying for Steve to come in and do a vocal, but then part of you says, no, leave it alone. Like this is
mm.
it's creating such an amazing atmosphere that I love it. Um, it's an excellent instrumental. I said in my notes, 5 out of 5. Just amazing. I just think it's just so it's the everything you want. And for me, it's everything I want in the church. Except for, I mean, I do miss Steve singing a little bit, but I just can't fault it. I just think it's so cool, especially when that second part, the first part fades out and that second part fades in. Oh, just love it to death.
Yeah, yeah. I like the drumming. It's kind of this tribal drums, and
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is really a good test for the stereo. It's so well produced, this album, and this song just comes out. It starts off with this quiet, delicate beauty with the guitar lines, and then it changes into something quite different. I like how it sort of switches into a different sort of melody, and you've got these really nice pizzicato strings. I don't know, it probably sounds like synth pizzicato strings, but it's nice. It's got this nice lilting melody. It's a nice closer to this album. So it's what they call a palate cleanser. So maybe, because the next track is a real balls out rocker in a way. Maybe,
Yes.
yeah, let's have a little palate cleanser before you flip the album over. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so
No,
we
and,
go to
and
we flip.
you kind of wonder if maybe the producer said like, they were thinking about putting vocals on it. He said, this doesn't need it. It's just
Yep,
so good. It doesn't need it.
yep, absolutely. And, Simple Minds did that in the early days. They'd have instrumentals and just workouts. So,
Hmm.
yeah. All right. Tantalize. Wow. What do you think of this song?
Wow. Yeah, this is amped up church. This is church on 11. And they are really hitting it hard on this record, on this song. They really kick off side 2 with a bang. Um and I do like it quite a bit. It sounds, I have in my notes, it sounds almost like early U2, like almost like at times it sounds a little bit like October or Boy or something. With that sort of ticka 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 ticka, and the heavy drum, and the drumming is pretty heavy, and on the tom a lot, like you said, the tribal thing is happening again.
Hmm.
He's hitting the toms quite a bit, and it kind of has that feel of that early U2 feel. Um, and I love early U2, so I'm all in. But it's I will say, as much as I love this track, and I do like this track a lot, and they also played this live, and this was amazing live as well. Even though, like you said, it's a different band, but they did a great job with it. Um, However, I will say this is where things start to go a little bit awry for me on this record, is where they start adding things to the side 2 is where they start going a little crazy with the arrangements, and they start adding some, I think there's some horns on this track. Or is that
Right.
keyboard?
No, no, no. That's horns.
It's
That's
horns.
horns.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I'm not sure I love the horns on this track. I almost wish they weren't there.
Yeah, I actually
That's
love
my
that
take.
I love that they're there because horns are very big in Australian rock, pub rock, Midnight Oil, Hunters and Collectors, and I've done a few Aussie shows where we're talking about bands from the '80s, and we were amazed that a lot of the key songs or bands in that era were using brass, and I really think this adds a lot of oomph. It brings me back to like the Saints, maybe on Eternally Yours, that album where they were bringing in brass. I can see
Hmm.
the U2. There's a lot of that windmill. It's very textured, but windmill sort of chordal progressions. It's got a lot of energy, but I really think that the horns add a bit of oomph. But that's okay. You're a mate. We all. That's all. That's all. That's why we have the contrarians. We have different opinions, but
Right.
yeah, I
Right.
think this is. Somebody described it as sort of like being an outlier of Stax, with the
Hmm.
trumpets and horns. But yeah,
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting that you say Midnight Oil. That kind of hits, like, now I kind of get it when you said that. Yeah.
yeah, 10-1 US,
Yeah.
sort of like Power and the Passion. But yeah,
Right.
so many bands in that era were, integrating brass and horns, and it was, yeah, I like it. Okay, next one is Disenchanted. What do you think of this song?
Um, I love it. I think Disenchanted is quite good. I think this kind of feels like, after the hit, the punch with Tantalized. This is more back to the sort of side 1 vibe again. But I really enjoyed it. I think it's, to me, it sounds very much like a song that, and maybe this wasn't true, because I know this record is was very much a band record. This was and I think that's why it was so successful, is it wasn't just Steve bringing in his demos and saying, let's just do it this way. It was
Mm.
more like, I think Marty and Peter and everybody were throwing in ideas. But this one kind of sounds like it could have been a Steve demo that was brought in, because it kind of sounds fully formed as sort of like a song. But I really enjoy it. I think Disenchanted is quite a great track with it. It's very hooky. I think it's got a lot of that. That's one thing about church people don't talk about. There are hooks on these songs, and this is
Yes,
another one of those. Yeah.
absolutely. It's kind of almost Baroque, and I like the harmonies. It's got kind of like those birds like harmonies of the late '60s, so it's kind of
Yes.
slightly
Yes.
retro. Steve's
Yes.
vocals are very warm, engaging, and animated, and it's just sunny, jangly pop. So I think this
Hmm.
is a really, really great song. All
Yeah. Love
right,
it.
then we go to Night of Light.
Yeah, huh. This is again where things on side 2 start to get a little sideways for me personally, in my opinion. Night of Light is the one. I mean, this is where I think they're trying hard which is admirable. They're trying hard to, like, push beyond what they do, which I get. and they're adding a lot of different arrangements and horn, like you said, different instrumentation. Great, that's great that they're pushing for it. And they, as a band, that's great. Just for some reason, this is the first track on the record for me that doesn't quite work. It feels like they're pushing beyond what they do, and it just doesn't quite. I don't know why. I just said in my notes, I just said not very into this song. Arrangement doesn't quite work. Trying a little too hard. Like they're trying to push. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say. I'm not as excited about this song for some reason. Can't quite put my finger on it.
Yeah, I probably agree with you. I don't think it's the strongest song in the album. Yeah, I mean, the positives, Kilby's bass playing. He's very underrated on the bass, and there's so much urgency. It sort of really pushes things along. Strings are back in the mix. You've got a bit of violin. There's a lot of urgency to it, but it's a bit of an odd song. I can't really chow down on it. And
Yes.
there's something I can't get my teeth around it. And, I must have played this album hundreds and hundreds of times, but it just doesn't quite click for me. But that's okay.
Right. It's okay.
Youth Worshipper. This is another strange little song. What do you think of this one?
Another weird one. Yes, this is another strange song for me that where I love. I have my in my. I've al- this song. I've always felt this way. I love the verse. I love the verse, and then for some reason the chorus. Again, the whole feeling of Night of Light has the same feeling of that, where it's almost like they're pushing with the whole da 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 da, da, and they're bringing in all the different instrumentation again, and I don't know why I'm not that fond of that chorus. It feels so unchurchish. Um, but I agree that I admire that they're trying something different. But I love the youth worshiper. I think that I love that part of it, and then it goes into the chorus, and I go, kind of wish I had a different chorus on this, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, the lyrics are about plastic surgery. So it's about people doing plastic surgery and looking for eternal youth and the downside of it. But I love the name of the song is a bit of a play on words because it's youth worshiper, but you can think of it as you worship her. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
spread the syllables out. So there's two
yeah,
ways. And I was thinking, well, that's kind of clever because I've always thought of it as you worship her. But
right.
it's all about plastic surgery and talking about the downfalls. Like the lyrics are hoofs and horns and tooth and bone. It just talks about the whole process. It's got a bit of a Baroque feel, and I agree with the chorus. It's all sort of sharps and flats. It's sort of
Right. Right.
Asian chords. It's really
Yes.
strange. It just takes a really sharp left turn, doesn't it? Dun 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 dun.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
weird.
There's something about that hard left that kind of throws me sideways on this track.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like it, but they're pushing the boundaries. They're doing something experimental. So I probably like this song a little bit more than you, but it's a good song.
Okay.
And then they finish up with Roman.
Oh, yeah. A great closer. Really after Youth Worshiper for me, that Roman is back to the primo church. I have what a great closer. I love another strong guitar riff. Um, and then the never going back again. I just think it's a great closer. I think it's an excellent way to end this record. It feels kind of like maybe I'm again, these are things that my impressions, but I'm feeling like this is more of a Marty type song for some reason. Like Marty had a lot of influence on this track for some reason.
Yeah, I love the Egypto sounding sounds of this song. It's very textured. It's an epic, and it's a great album closer. And those wonderful arpeggios.
Mhm.
Just the beautiful chiming arpeggios of the guitars. So yeah, I think this is a fine closer. So there you have it.
Absolutely.
That's
Thank you.
Heyday. So we will move on to the next one, which is the church, putting it up again, Starfish, which they got signed to Arista Records. So they got a phone call, and somebody from Arista Records said, "Oh, I believe that you don't have a record deal." Yeah.
That's true.
We'd like to see you. And they got to meet Clive Davis. That blew everyone's mind once.
Yeah.
Anyway, part of the stable. And they sort of felt at home on that label, because when you look at Arista Records, you had artists, some very diverse artists like Whitney Houston, Iggy Pop, a few others, but they
Air
felt
Supply. No, just kidding. I don't know.
they felt very much at home, and things were starting. They had a bit of a budget behind them, and things were starting to work for them. So, okay, so let's go into the songs. Destination. What do you think of this one?
Amazing. I love that. Destination is my favorite church songs of all time. I just think it's what a way. And you can feel this record, as you just said, you can feel the change in label. You can feel they've upped their game in a lot of different ways, in production, in sound, in arrangements, in just everything just sounds so elevated. And this is almost like Murr on steroids. It's almost like another atmospheric piece, but Steve sings so well on it. And I just love it just has such a great sound. I love there's like a slight reverb, seems like, on everything, but it works so well. And I think this is again the subtle riffs and the subtle choruses that the church do to perfection. And I just think that I just love it to death. I just love this track.
Yeah, it's just they are so bold and comfortable and confident in their own skin that they can do something as atmospheric as the first track on an album, because usually the first track on the album has got to be a balls out rocker or something that's like bang. But no, not the church. They just, this is our world. We're going to open the door.
Yep.
And we're just going to ease it in, and we're going to do something atmospheric. It's cryptic, it's intriguing, it's full of light and shade. It's a song about traveling, I think, in the mind. The wonderful sort of echo. I think Peter, with his digital echo unit, it's just the sounds.
It works so well.
Kilby in his pulsating bass, it's just wonderful, such expressive guitar lines. Some of the best probably guitar lines you'll ever hear ever since probably television, in my opinion, that debut album. It's there.
That's a great point. Really good. Really well said.
Funny enough, when they did a tour behind this in the States, they were supported by Tom Verlaine. How good would that have been?
Oh my God, that's a mind blower.
That would have been like Nirvana. Wow. Absolutely. But I agree with you. I think this is just an outstanding crack of an opening track. Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. So Destination. Then we go to the big hit, Under the Milky Way, went to number 24 in the US charts, number 11 in Australia. When you look at the chart placings, you think, ooh, I thought it did much bigger, but I think sometimes songs transcend sales and their reputation grow and grow and grow. And this is kind of a stone cold masterpiece. It was voted as one of the 10 greatest Australian rock songs of all time. So what do you think of this song?
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, this is a song that cooked me. So I heard it, and I think there was definitely they really had, maybe they weren't like burning up the Billboard, but they were getting played a lot on college radio. It was sort of like an REM-ish kind of thing where.
And MTV, that film clip.
Yeah, exactly. The MTV, exactly. That was another a great video as well. So they were all over like 120 minutes and all this MTV shows. So they really did have sort of a momentum going in the college rock kind of circuit. And I just think it's a great track. I think it's a great single. I really think I think it's, and I know they're tired of playing it, and it's like their signature song, but it's just it's their hit for a reason. It's a great chorus, great again, another they do the atmosphere thing again, but it's a little more acoustic based this time. But I love the ending when when it's just that's that strident acoustic at the end, and then you hear the guitars weaving again at the end as it fades out. I just think it's a brilliant song.
Yeah, I think it's perfect. I think it's one of the most
Mm.
perfect songs. A little bit of trivia: the session player Russ Kunker, the drummer, and he's a session. You look at his CV; he's done sessions for Dylan, Stevie Nicks, Neil Young, Neil Diamond. It's about this long. He played drums on this song, and the band were having a little bit of some problems with Richard Plug. Like in some of his drum tracks, he was a little bit behind the beat, and they were bringing a click track. They brought this guy in to do the drums. So I'm not sure if Richard may have contributed, but definitely Russ played drums on this particular track. Look, I love the story behind this. It was Kilby and his then girlfriend, Karen Jansen, and they were having they're out in the outback in a field. They had a spliff, and they're just looking at the Milky Way and the stars, and just sort of the lyrics, and just it sort of dropped. It just provided inspiration, and to me, it's sort of, I think why it was such a big hit in Australia, and it sort of resonates today, is that a lot of our culture and Aboriginal culture, Indigenous culture, is stories of the Dreamtime, where you basically look at the stars at night and make stories. You can use your imagination to what this song means.
Very evocative.
So, yeah. So
Yes.
I just think it's perfect. The chord changes.
The vocal, great vocal again.
Yep. And it's sort of it's sort of like a slightly conversational vocal line from Steve Kilbey. I like it. He sings it in a different way to how he sings a lot of the other songs, where he might be a little bit more strident, but he's kind of a little bit more laid back and conversational, and it's just such an engaging vocal performance. But I think the band are completely on fire. But arguably, there's another song on this album that's almost quite as good, and we'll talk about that shortly. I'll keep you guessing. Blood Money. What do you think of this one?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I think I'm going to be repeating myself a lot on this record. But I love Blood Money is. Oh, I was going to say really quickly before I just want to make one comment. You said something about Richard Plug. And I think from what I understand, I read a little bit of the Marty Wilson Piper blog thing. And he said that he said, first of all, Waddy Wachtel was part of the production team, and he was an LA studio cat of, played on Stevie Nicks and all that stuff. And he knew all these guys, Russ Kunkel and all those LA session guys. And apparently Richard, because you kind of think, what happened to Richard? Because Richard, he plays on this record, but then halfway through the next one, he kind of bails. And you're kind of like, what's going on with Richard? And I think that from what I read, that the production team was very much on him. And they were like, oh, that's too fast. That's too slow. Nope. Let's do it again. Nope. They were all over him. And your confidence can erode quickly when someone's doing that to you.
Absolutely. And Walter was apparently quite a very strict. He was like the rhythm king.
Yes.
And there's this funny story. I've got to share it with the viewers. Steve Kilbey went to an Indian restaurant with Walter, and they had this pipe music of this Indian band, and Walter said, that's behind the beat. The Indian drums, that's slightly behind the beat. So, but apparently he was the guy that was like his number one thing. He was like the rhythm king.
Right.
And, but I was just amazed that they brought this session player onto Under the Milky Way.
That's also a confidence eroder. It's like, oh, let's bring somebody else in for this track. It's like, oh no, that's not good.
Yeah, Tom, I think a lot of our viewers would be surprised, because when you get an album and you see who plays on it and it's just the band behind the scenes, you'd be so surprised of how many enhancements and extra session musicians a lot of these major albums have had, that you just read about later.
Yes.
It's just,
yes. It's you find out more as you dig in. Yes, exactly. So anyway, on to Blood Money. I'm sorry, I did a digression there. Blood Money. Love it love this track. This is a perfect example you had mentioned earlier of Steve's lyrics being a little darker, maybe on the
Mm.
dark end of things, but the music is not. So it's one of those where the music kind of, I mean, it complements the lyric pretty well actually, but it's it's I love the vocals, the whole in and blood money, and it's just that whole the lyric arrange or the vocal arrangement so great, um, and I just love the whole like we'll take everything in cold hard cash, and it's like this is you wouldn't think that the church would be singing about this, but it's a great lyric, and I think it's very evocative and very I love it. I think the sound so great. And I love the guitar weaving again on this track.
Oh yeah, it's got this spiky arpeggio guitar riff. It's not one of my favorite tracks, but I appreciate it. It's a good track. Kilby's kind of whisper singing, and he's in
Mhm.
storyteller mode. And there's an interesting fade out, and it kind of runs out of steam towards the end. The Church Two wonderful, interesting outros. You know, you think it's going to go in one particular direction, but right at the end of the song, they'll take it in another direction, and that's the sign of a really good band, where they're not just straightforward; they're just taking it in different tangents. So
Yeah.
next one is Lost. What do you think of this song?
Another for me another winner. Um, because I just love the whole "cause we love." I mean, the singing, Steve is really coming into his own on
Mm,
the vocals on this record. I think the whole album. I think he sings extremely well. His bass playing is also top notch. Um, and there's just something about this track that is very, again, I keep saying the word, but it's just very evocative of what they're singing about. Um, and I just think that it's they do this perfect thing where they're not hitting it too hard. They're kind of like Destination. It's sort of this it sort of feels laid back, but it's so it pulls me in. It's like this pull in thing. And Lost feels very much similar to Destination in that way that it kind of pulls you in and it's not hitting you over the head, you know?
yeah.
What do you feel about this track?
I think it's just beautiful jangly pop. You've
Yeah.
got these arpeggios that absolutely sparkle. It's sunny side up. I'd love to hear an isolated guitar line, guitar track of Marty on this particular song.
Yes.
I think he,
Isolated. Yes.
I think he
Yes.
really shines on this one. Kilby's voice is just so warm and inviting, and he's just inviting, the listener to listen to what he's got to say, and he's just navigating, the listener on a journey. I think it's a great, great song. I really like it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Speaking of navigation, there's a lot of navigation on this album, isn't it? It's
There
sort of
is.
like, we're sort of, you're here, but we're taking you on a journey. And, the next one's called North, South, East, and West. What do you think of this one?
Oh, I enjoy it. It's sort of a it's like you said, a lot of navigational themes. I noticed that as well. It's like were some of these songs written on tour or something, but I it's another a great way to end side one. I just think it's um the again the guitar tones are just fantastic. I just love the sound of this album. I just think they must have worked very hard recording this album because the tones are just they're to die for. I play some guitar and there are times where I feel like, oh, I just want to get that church feel. I want to get that Marty Wilson Piper feel. Um, but I do think that I keep talking about the vocals, but I do think the vocals are great. And he does another great vocal on this. Um, and it's just, and it, again, the subtle riffs of north, south, east, west. And at the end, when he starts just saying the words, and it's just a great way to, I just think it's so subtly brilliant. That's kind of the vibe for this album, in my opinion. What do you think of this track?
Oh, I love it. And it's all about they were in LA, and it's about navigating their way around the excesses of LA. You're in the middle of the 80s. There was a like LA is a place where it's larger than life, as you would be aware. And it sort of talks about materialism and is money, is happiness, and sort of all the scene that they were just caught up in while they were recording the album in LA, the larger than life, the excesses of the 80s. So I think they're talking north, south, east, and west as being like a moral compass and, navigating your way around. But Kilby's bass line is just, it swoops up and down the fretboard, and Marty's in full flight. It's just, his guitar riffs are just so fluid. It's just counterpointed by Peter's guitar chords. So I just, they're on fire. They're playing as a band. They're in synergy with each other. I know we've been talking about Richard, but I still think this is the quintessential lineup. Steve Kilby will probably hate me and put a thumbs down. But I've always said that this is the classic lineup. Heyday and Starfish, for me, is the quintessential Church lineup. And just, it is what it is.
There's something about the four of these that we always talk about. The four, there's a lot of that where Pink Floyd, those four guys, there's something about the four guys that's magical. The Beatles, obviously, right? There's just these certain lineups have this magic, and that's the Church is, I agree with you. I think this lineup had magic in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, so side 2, we go on to Spark. This is a Marty Wilson Piper number. What do you think of this one? It's a bit different, isn't it? A bit different.
It's very different. I'm just going to say, that's my notes. I say very different track for them. And it's very Marty. I mean, you can tell this is Marty's track, but it's sort of almost power chordish at times, where he's kind of hitting these power chords on his Rickenbacker. And he's just doing the, saturated, wet with the tears. I think it's a great way to start side 2. It's like all of a sudden you're like, whoa, this is kind of a rocker. And he's really given it his all, as far as, he's doing these sort of slashing power chords. And then he's also doing his vocal is very good. I mean, with this, Spock, and it does the repeating thing. I just think it's a great rocker. It's an excellent rocking track and great way to start side 2.
Well, Heyday did the same thing with side 2 with Tantalize, a windmill rocker. So seeing a little bit of a pattern here. I reckon this is almost power pop, 80s new wave power pop. It's got a bit of bite to it. It's got drive. To me, Richard's drumming on this is really, really good. If it is Richard, I'm sure it is. But
yeah, there's nothing wrong with the drumming at all.
But I think he's on fire. It's just a wave of energy on this song, and it's a bit of an outrider when you compare it to the rest of the other songs, which are kind of dreamy and jangly. But this one's got a little bit of crunch, a little bit of bite to it. I like it a lot, and maybe I'm out of school. I wouldn't mind one more.
Yeah.
Or, make it track 11, or,
Yeah, give us one more rocker. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a bit of a formula with, Marty would have one, and also Peter would have one as well, and the rest would be Steve. But, it'd be nice if Marty got an extra one. I don't know. Always like Marty songs.
Yeah, it's almost like the Collins songs on XTC, I wouldn't mind another Collins song sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's one of those kind of situations. But on to Antenna.
Yep.
Which is my favorite track on the record. I just absolutely love Antenna. Oh my God. There's something about this track that I don't know what hits me, but it just hits me hard. It's that the guitar, to me, it's like quintessential Church with that guitar, that dun 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 dun, and it kind of has a waltz feel to it.
Yep.
And it's just fantastic. I just love the guitar tones and the way it's played. And you're just an antenna, and it's very majestic. I keep talking about majestic and evocative, but that's kind of what this whole record feels like. And in this track, when they played it live, when I saw them play it live, it just was another one of those where it just hit me, and I went, "Oh my God, I forgot about this track. I love this song." So I just think it's a great deep track.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a lilt to it, and I love when the mandolin comes in, and I'm sure
mandolin. Yes, thank you. That's what I forgot to mention. Yes,
and I'm sure that they've done they've double tracked it, There's they've dubbed 2 tracks of mandolin just to add a little bit more of a wall of sound. I put it a wall of jangle pop. There's a lot of songs on this album that are like a wall of sound. It's just wonderful. I like it. I think it's a really, and I love that rhythm. It's kind of, would you say it's almost like a waltz? It's got a waltz rhythm to it.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Reptile. Man, would it be fair to say this is near the top of your pile?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Reptile was the other song. Excuse me, I'm fighting a little cold. Reptile was the other song that they played on my college station, and I was completely sold when I heard this. I mean, again, another great guitar riff. I mean, I love the riff, and I love how they play off the echo on the riff. You know, that it's like, oh, that is just killer. I love it, and I just think the chorus is fantastic. I think that bass playing, by the way, is top notch, and his vocal. I mean, Steve is on fire on this track as well. And I just think it's a great chorus. I mean, they have some choruses that really, really hit you in the gut. This is one of them. I think the chorus is excellent.
Yeah, there's a lot of tension in this song, and it feels like you've got Peter and Marty with the delay guitars, and then you've got the bass and the drums, and sometimes it's like this tension amongst the band that they've all got their part. It's like call and response. It's push and pull, and this song really, it's just super tense but super exciting to hear. Yeah, that with that wonderful delay echo guitar, I love it. Hey, the story is really funny. I think it's based on a story where Steve Kilbey went back to a girl's house and he went into the bathroom. He pulled the shower curtain, and in the bath was this big iguana or a big lizard or a reptile.
Oh, okay.
And that's where the story came from. But that was the inspiration. But I think if you look at the lyrics, it's more about a toxic relationship. But I found that quite interesting, that the genesis or the seed of this story or the lyric was based on an actual reptile in a bathtub. Anyway.
Yeah, and I got to give Richard credit on this one too. There's nothing wrong with the drumming on this track either.
So. Yeah, funny enough. Anyway, all right, we're getting to the business end. So we've got the next song is A New Season. So this is a Peter song.
Yes, Peter jumps in on the writing, and it's quite good. I mean, Peter, it's interesting that some of these you're like, okay, maybe they should have done a little bit more democratic feel on this band. I mean, Steve obviously was the main force, the driving force of the writing, but I think that they did a lot of group kind of contributions that happened on Heyday, and then on this one they actually, like to your point, they have a couple of almost individual tracks of Marty and Peter, and I do think that this is quite a good track. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a massive standout, but I think it's a really well played, well sung. I think it's it's kind of get, like you said, getting late in the record, so they're kind of like easing back a little bit, but I still think it's very melodic and evocative as well. So
absolutely, it sort of bounces along. I think the only flaw that I have is that maybe Peter's not as strong a singer as the rest of the other folks in the band, and the vocals are kind of way back in the mix. A little bit more understated, but there's a lot of bravado, and it is a very bouncy riff, so it's a good song. One thing I was going to ask, without doing a deep dive and talking albums, but have you ever explored the catalogues of Marty and Peter? Because they've put out solo albums, or Steve for that matter. Have you ever had a chance to go down those rabbit holes?
I have not, and that's something that is still on my to-do list. So, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of good material on a lot of all those records.
Steve's prolific. He's done so many albums. It's like he does 2 or 3 every year. But there's certainly, but Marty, off in the 80s was starting to put a bit of a solo career together. And yeah, he's got a bit of a catalogue, so definitely worth exploring.
Yes, I did hear one album that Steve did with Grant McLennan because I'm a big Go-Betweens guy as well.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yep.
know, so I love Grant McLennan. I love Grant McLennan's solo stuff too. So I did explore that, and I thought that was quite good.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So,
All right. And then we've got the
um,
finale, Hotel Womb. What do you think of this song?
Hotel Womb. I think we end on a winner. I like Hotel Womb quite a bit. Um, I just think that again. What a wonderful womb. I mean, it kind of feels again like to your point. There's a lot of songs about traveling, hotel womb. It's kind of like they must have been writing on tour because there's this whole. That's the when I feel when I hear the lyrics on this, I always think hotel womb is like you're stuck in a hotel all day, you know. And I love that he says what a wonderful room, you know. So he's kind of enjoying it, you know. Um, but I just think that it's a great way to end the record. Once again, I know I keep running out of adjectives because I keep using the same ones. I feel like I'm repeating myself quite a bit, but it's I just think that this song has quite a good riff and quite a good feel to it. It's a great feel, and I think it's a great way to end the record. I enjoy it. What do you think of this song?
Yeah, look, I think it's a masterly piece of psych. Um,
Mhm.
you know, it's quite magical. And it's funny, like they started off with a kind of an atmospheric song and they finish with an atmospheric song. So there's kind of a little bit of synergy. And in the middle, they've got the rockers. So
Right,
I,
right.
I'm a very big stickler for good track listing and how an album flows. And I think the two albums flow really well. And that's something that I
Mhm.
can't fault. And this one, particularly, I think that the song listing, every song's in the right place. And I like how they've, that's what they are. They finish with a very atmospheric type of song. It's just wonderful. It's got full of light and shade. It's nicely arranged and the band's playing in synchronicity. And I like the story. I think it's all about dreaming and waking up and what's real and what is not real. And yeah, look, just this heyday in this album. So a lot of it is traveling, maybe
Yeah.
with extra substances. I don't know.
Yes, right. Right.
Probably stationary, probably traveling in the mind.
In the
But
mind, yeah, exactly. Because Steve does explore psychedelia throughout his whole career, doesn't
oh
he?
yeah,
Yeah, so
absolutely.
he really does.
Absolutely. Well, there you
So
have it, folks. We've covered the albums. So this is where it comes to, like Tom's channel, this is the business end,
yep.
where we make a decision. So, Tom, you can stretch it out a little bit, but not too long. Tell us. Tell us who's the winner of this little ding dong battle between the two church albums.
Well, I have to as much as I love Heyday, I think that Heyday is them coming into their own. I really think, and I think it's a great record, and I think there's a lot of amazing tracks on it. Um, but as far as consistency is concerned, I just think consistent all the way through this record. I think they really hit their stride, and there's a reason they reached so many people with this record because I believe that it's a combination of, in my opinion, from when I listen to the church records in succession, this one stands out as a they're all firing on full cylinders. They have a great production team. They're recording in a five-star studio. They're at Ocean Way in California. They have a great they're coming together as far as writing as well. It seems like all of them are writing really well. They I think they felt a wind at their back when, to your point, when they got signed to Arista and they said, "Oh my God, we have a big label in the States." Who's going to push our product? If we do a great record here, you can kind of feel it in their minds. Like if we really do a great record, we might go to the next level, and they really do. They deliver. And as far as I'm concerned, this album to this day is still very, very strong in my opinion, and I still come back to it all the time, listen to it all the time. But not that's not to say that Heyday is not a really very good record, because it is. I love Heyday as well. So just to be kind of waffle-ish, but I think Heyday has some great side one of Heyday is pretty tough to beat as well. So, but I'm gonna go
Yeah,
in this battle. I gotta go Starfish.
absolutely. Well, I'm going to be a little bit different, but to me, Heyday for the win. I think this is their true masterpiece, but this is probably a decimal point behind. But I've always loved Heyday, and I love the variety. I think they're on fire. Starfish has, maybe arguably some of their greatest songs. I think consistently, and if you were doing an average, I just think there are, across the board, in my opinion, slightly better songs on Heyday. But hey, that's just my view.
It's okay. That's what we're here for. That's it's everyone has to hear different things differently, and that's why we do these.
Absolutely.
So.
Tom, wonderful to have you on. You can see Tom on Curlessmania. Wonderful shows. I had the pleasure of being on his show. We did a battle of the Stones, and I think we're going to be doing a little bit of maybe another Stones-related show in the not-too-distant future. We'll keep that one under wraps and a bit of a surprise, but I'll put the link and check out Tom's channel. Lots of different content, classic rock, new wave. You've got it. It's all on there. Please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. Give it the thumbs up. Tell us your comment. Tell us what you think of, your favorite Church album, or what is the victor in your eyes between these two albums' favorite song. We love reading your comments. But one thing's for sure, you'll see me and Tom doing more shows in 24 and 25. Cheers and have a good night.